Hello students, in the previous classes we have finished our first chapter and today we are proceeding to the second chapter, that is Little World of Mud. Now first of all let me read a few pages of this chapter for all of you. I had never thought there was much to be found in the rainwater pond behind our bungalow in North India except for quantities of mud and the occasional water buffalo. It was my grandfather who showed me the pond's world. It was very beautiful. Each member was of use to the others. To the residents of the pond pond was the world, and to these creatures, the world was just a muddy pond. When grandfather first showed me the pond world, he chose a dry place in the shade of an old peepal tree. The buffaloes had not arrived, so the water of the pond was undisturbed. For the first 10 minutes, we saw nothing. Then a small black spot appeared in the middle of the pond. Gradually, it rose higher until at last we could make out a frog's head, its big eyes staring hard at us. The frog didn't know if we were friends or enemies, so he kept his body out of sight. A heron, his enemy, might have been waiting in search of a meal. When Mr. Frog had made sure that we were not herons, he passed this information on to his friends, and very soon there were a number of big heads and eyes on the surface of the water. We heard a music that went walk, walk, walk. In the shallow water, we could see a dark shadow. When I touched it with a stick, thousands of little black tadpoles started moving and pushing each other. What do tadpoles eat? I asked. They eat one another most of the time, said grandfather. Grandfather, it seems unpleasant, but if all the young tadpoles in this pond grew into frogs, then every inch of the ground would be full of frogs. I brought home a number of frogs and put them in a glass jar and left them on a window sill. I didn't tell anyone of this. At about 4 in the morning, the entire household was awakened by a loud and fearful noise. Grandmother and other members of the family ran out. Then my grandmother saw them. She was very angry and she wanted them thrown out of the window, but grandfather stopped her. He gave the bottle a good shaking and that quieted them for some time. So students, this much for today. Now let me give you a short summary of the page that we have read today. So students, the story is about a small boy who used to live in a small bungalow in North India. One day, his grandfather took him to a pond behind their bungalow, and it was a small muddy pond. So, after reaching the pond, both of them, the grandchild and the grandfather, sat under the shade of a peepal tree, and they were just looking at the pond. But for the first 10 minutes there was nothing, and after some time they saw a little frog who was looking outside at them, but his body was almost under the water. He just picked out his head out of the water in order to see whoever outside the pond. It might be an enemy, and the enemy of the frog is a heron, a bird. And after looking some time at both of them, at last the frog realized that they are not a heron, and again he went inside the pond. Then after few time, the boy and his grandmother saw that a number of um, tadpoles appeared on the surface of the water, and they made a walk walk sound. Then the little boy, touched the water with a small stick, and at the meantime thousands of little black tadpoles, they just came outside of the pond water. Then the little boy asked his grandfather that what does the tadpole eat, and his grandfather informed him that most of the time these tadpoles they eat one another. Then the little boy brought few of the frogs in a glass water jar to his house and left them on a window sill, but he did not tell any member of his house because he know that he must be scolded and they will not allow these tadpoles to get inside their house. But next day at around 4 a.m., all the members of their house they just awakened after listening to a fearsome sound. And when the boy came out of his room, he saw that the sounds were coming out of the jar in which the tadpoles were there. Then the grandmother of the boy also saw the jar, and she was very angry at him. She wanted to throw this jar out of their window, but his grandfather did not allow her to do so. Instead, grandfather shaked the little jar, and for some time the tadpoles inside the jar they just kept quiet. So students, this was the summary for today's story, means the half story that we read today, and the rest of the story we shall read it tomorrow. Now let me give you the meanings of the new words that we have got inside this lesson. Number one is bungalow, and it means a large house, sometimes on more than one level. Next one is heron. It means a large bird with a long neck and long legs that lives near water. And the last one is quieted, which means make or become quiet and calm. So students, this much for today, and here is your home assignment for today's class. Please try to do it by yourself, and I'll give you the answer of this question after few days when we will discuss the important question answers from this chapter itself. So this is enough for today. Thank you so much.